Let's watch Sunny Hostin of The View go from excited to disappointed about the election. Sometimes I cover these more of the election night itself. This is going to be kind of a build-up the season, and then after the election a little bit as well. Let's take a look.
But I will say this. I think it's really ironic that we're the only party talking about needing to replace our nominee. I think it's really ironic that the party that should be pressuring their candidate to step aside is the Republican Party. Their nominee...
Yeah, so there we're starting it just after the Biden debate, carrying on. Okay, we're moving forward quite a bit here. This is the middle of October, but this clip covers a lot. Sunny Hostin was actually a part of a pretty big moment on the campaign when she asked Kamala Harris the question, which you'll see here.
Now, this is Vice President Harris in the new interview. We've got the highlights. And at one point, we have Bear playing the recent interview you did with the Vice President. Let's take a look.
You were asked on 2 different shows last week what, if anything, you would do differently than President Biden. Here's what you said.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind.
Nothing comes to mind that you would do differently?
Let me be very clear. My presidency will not be a continuation of Joe Biden's presidency. And like every new president that comes into office, I will bring my life experiences, my professional experiences, and fresh and new ideas.
Sunny?
I'm surprised to see The View on Fox News. So, you know, I thank them for that, I guess. But she did answer my question. I asked if what.
Did she really, though?
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind.
I mean, it's technically an answer. I just think the consensus was not a very good one.
Would be the difference between a Harris presidency and a Biden presidency. I think she's very loyal to President Biden. I think it's clear that the Biden administration has had one of the most successful administrations in history. She has nothing to be ashamed of having been part of that. She did ultimately.
Look, I certainly don't agree with that. I'm not going to go on some tangent. Like, looking back at the election, I wonder if it might have been better strategy for Kamala to try to sell that, what Sunny Hostin just said, like, oh, the Biden administration is so great. Again, I don't think it would have worked, but her strategy was kind of, I'm kind of like Biden, but I'm kind of not. It was, I think, a big problem with Kamala's campaign. It was very unclear sort of where she stood. If she wasn't going to like full on criticize Biden and that administration, maybe the better option would have just been to say, hey, everything's so great. Again, I don't know, but being in the middle doesn't really work. It's not inspiring. It was just very unclear what Kamala kind of wanted. Moving ahead a little, here's quite the take.
I think it's going to be a blowout, actually. I don't think it's going to be a close race.
When Donald Trump and his top allies talk about having a mandate coming out of the 2024 election, this is what they're talking about. Now, you look at the map, you see a lot of squares colored in. Here's what it actually means. Every county that you see red is a county that shifted toward Trump.
I think there are going to be those Republicans that just vote for Harris, and I think the majority of them will be women. This is a masterful thing that they are doing. They are going to these critical swing states, and they are speaking to those Nikki Haley voters. Remember, in Wisconsin was decided for President Biden in 2020 by just 20,000 votes.
The former president's comeback will be complete with a win in Wisconsin, a state that he narrowly lost 4 years ago.
Getting closer to the election now, Sunny had this to say following those Puerto Rico jokes at the Trump rally in New York.
And by the way, Jennifer Lopez, Ricky Martin, Bad Bunny, Luis Fonsi, and Mark Anthony have over 345 million followers on Instagram. I think you only have 26 million, since you care so much about size. And we don't like what was said about Puerto Rico. And we know how to take the trash out, Donald Trump. Trash that has been collecting since 2016. And that's you, Donald Trump.
I doubt what she meant by that was Donald Trump returning to the White House with the Senate and the House, but moving on. Okay, one final clip here. She's talking about one of Kamala's final speeches at the Ellipse, and then we'll get to the reaction of the election results afterwards.
Looked like the country that I know. It didn't look like a white nationalist rally, okay? It looked very different than that. Also, I thought it was wonderful when she said, listen, I'm not perfect. I will make mistakes. I make mistakes. It takes strength and courage to admit that you can make mistakes, to admit that you've made mistakes. Donald Trump has never admitted fault for anything. He has still not admitted that his team vetted that comic that called the island of Puerto Rico, where my family is from, trash.
I don't think anybody has ever seen anything like what happened the other night at Madison Square Garden. The love in that room. It was breathtaking.
Trump this morning telling ABC News he has not watched the comedian's comments, insisting, quote, "I don't know him. Someone put him up there. I don't know who he is."
Okay, a floating island of trash, garbage. He called this country garbage. I think, Whoopi, everybody feels like you feel. We're punch drunk.
Yeah.
Everybody feels like you feel, Sarah. We're tired of the divisiveness.
Can't wait till it's
Everyone
over
feels like you
already.
feel. Everyone wants this to be over. But we want our America back.
Okay, so now by this part of the video, Donald Trump has won the presidency for the second time. Let's see Sonny's reaction to that.
So again, I'm profoundly disturbed that the 14th Amendment of the Constitution did not prevent someone who participated in an insurrection from becoming president of the United States. I think that going forward, the convicted felon box on employment applications better be taken off, because if you can be the president of the United States, then you should not be prevented from employment in this country, because I remember applying for my job.
The studio audiences at a bunch of these shows are so funny. They just clap at kind of whatever. It's funny.
As a federal prosecutor, and there was a box for convicted felon.
Okay, one more clip here to wrap it up.
Not have is white women who voted about 52%, right, for Donald Trump. Uneducated white women, is my understanding. You have Latino men, actually.
That is by far one of the most cringe thing that pundits on television do. Just they throw in uneducated. The uneducated people, yeah, they vote Trump. I've covered this a lot, actually, on my channel recently. That is a very recent phenomena of people without a college degree, whatever, voting Republican. For years, decades, college-educated people voted Republican. So not only is it just like, a lot of people say it in a mean-spirited way, it's also just like a very new phenomenon. Again, something, though, that people on television love to bring up for whatever reason.
Voting more for him. And you have, and black men was not the story. We're not the story here, because they voted almost 80% for the vice president.
Right.
So why do you think that uneducated white women voted against their reproductive health freedoms? And why do you think Latino men voted in favor of someone that's going to deport?
Oh my goodness. Anyway, with that said, I'm going to finish the video, but thank you very much for watching. Like and subscribe, leave a comment. I will see you in the next video.